Is Erev Shabbos Kodesh. It is the second day of the month of Nisan, and we are on Daf Gimel of Maseches Shekalim. And a big mazel tov to everybody that participated in our siyum on Maseches Pesachim last night, and a big thank you to the Celsius for hosting it. We are continuing at the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, continuing from the Mishnah. The Mishnah told us that one of the things that we do on the 15th of Adar is Mesaknen es hadrachim ves harachavos. We fix up all of the ways and the roads, ves mikvas hamayim, and all of the mikvas for people to purify themselves in. We do all of the necessary things for the community, all public needs. And now the Gemara is going to explain, okay, good. What exactly are these tzarchei rabim that we are allowed to do, that we are supposed to be doing? Elohim tzarchei rabim. These are the these are the tzarchei rabim, and this is coming from the Mishnah and Brisa from Moed Katan. They are danim dinei mamonos. We judge monetary cases, v'dinei nefashos, and capital cases, v'dinei makas, and giving people makas, corporal punishment, and we can redeem erchin, that's vows that a person would say, I'm giving the value of this person to the Beis HaMikdash. Cherim, somebody that is put into literally when we talk about something, a person being put into cherim, but cherim here doesn't mean a person. It means something that is now owed or owned by the Beis HaMikdash. The Ekdeshos and things that have been dedicated to the Beis HaMikdash, you can be paid them onto money, you can redeem them, and then be able to use the item, and the money is now able to be used to buy future and further kachim. And we give the saita to drink. And we burn the paraduma. And we do the egla arufa ceremony for a person that was killed, and we don't know who the murderer is. The roitzin eved ivri, and we drill the hole into the ear of the eved ivri. And we make a mitzara purified. And we take the locks off of the wells that were locked up until the rainy season arrived, so that it should be able to fill up. We don't lock them up again, because now we want people to be able to drink them. Says the Gemara as follows. Hold on a second. All of these things that we just listed are all done during Chol Hamoed. Says the Mishnah, it says the Gemara as follows, Taman Taninen, there we just explained, Mashkin Beis HaShlachin, that we also irrigate fields. We are allowed to irrigate the fields on Chol Hamoed, and we then mark the graves. Says the Gemara now, hold on, but we said in our Mishnah here in Shekalim that you are already supposed to be marking the graves in Chodesh Adar. Why is it then that we're marking graves again when it comes Chodesh Nisan during Chol Hamoed Pesach? Says the Gemara, v'tipate, and you can explain it as follows: that there's still more rain that's coming. So even though you've marked all the graves in Chodesh Adar, it could still be raining until the middle of Chodesh Nisan. And because of that, we are worried that maybe you'll have to go and remark the graves as well. It's not that you have to, it's that if you need to, you are allowed to go and do that again during Chol Hamoed. Says the Gemara, v'yotzin af ala kilaim, that the 15th of Adar, that the beginning of Adar, the Mishnah says they would announce about kilaim, and then by the 15th of Adar, 2 weeks later, they would go and they would clear out the kilaim. They would come around and they would note any kilaim that were there. Says the Gemara, didn't they already go out in Adar about the Brisa is saying that they can go out about the kilaim, but didn't they go out already in Adar? Why does the Mishnah Moed Katan say that they go out in Chol Hamoed Pesach again to go clear out the fields of the kilaim? Says the Gemara, Tipater Shaisa Ashana Afela Vein Atzmachim Nikarim. You could explain, depends on the year. Some years the year is late. That's the Shana is Afela, meaning it hasn't grown yet. And then they would go out again, they would check it out. Vein Atzmachim Nikarim. And if the fruits and vegetables, the stuff in the field wasn't yet recognizable, you couldn't see that it had grown yet, so then they would go back again a month later, pretty much, from the 15th of Adar to the 16th of Nisan, and then they'd be able to go and find it. Says the Gemara, the next question, we've spoken about marking graves. How do you know that you are supposed to mark graves? Where does such a thing come from? Meaning, it's useful, but since when is this just a good idea, or is there a raya for this? Says the Gemara, Minay Letzion. How do you know that you have to go and mark a grave? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov bar Bas Yaakov b'shem Rabbi Chunya de Bras Chavrin. Says that Rabbi in the name of Rabbi Yaakov Bar Bas Yaakov, Rashi and Eruvin points out that whenever somebody is referred to as Bar Bas Yaakov, it means that his father wasn't anybody significant to talk about, meaning he wasn't a tzaddik. So he's known as the son of the daughter of Yaakov, because we don't want to call him by his father's name. So Rabbi Yaakov Bar Bas Yaakov, so he was named after a Yaakov who was a tzaddik, and he was a tzaddik, but the interim generation was not. B'shem Rabbi Chunya, the Bras Chavrin, in the name of Rabbi Chunya of Bras Chavrin, Rabbi Yosa Amri La Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha B'Shem Rabbi Chunya de Bras Chavrin, and there's another tradition of where it came from. Rabbi Chizkiya Rabbi Uziel Berei de Rav Chunya de Bras Chavrin B'Shem Rabbi Chunya de Bras Chavrin, or alternatively, it came from a different tradition. All of them come down to the same pasuk, which is v'tamei yikra, that the Metzora, when he's sent out of the camp, has to call out v'tamei yikra. He says, "I'm tamei, I'm tamei." Kedei sheyeh hatuma kara lecha b'fiha, so that the tumah should call out to you with its mouth, literally, v'ameres lecha prush, and say, "Stay away from me, stay away." So I think this is the Bavli in Moikatan asked the question, well, hold on a second, Tami Yikra, don't you need that pasuk to tell you that you have to call out, quite literally, meaning what the pasuk is telling you, that you have to call out. The Metzora has to say, I'm Tami. How do you learn from here that you need to mark a grave? So the Gemara points out in the Bavli, the Tami Yikra has the word Tami twice. Tami Yikra would tell you that the Metzora has to call out and say, I'm Tami. But Tami Yikra can teach me an additional calling out of Tumah, that you have to mark the grave so that Tumah is also, so to speak, calling out. Says the Gemara as follows, Reb Ila b'shem Reb Shmuel bar Nachman, says Reb Ila in the name of Reb Shmuel bar Nachman, va'avru ha'ovrim ba'aretz, v'ra etzem adam, u'bena etzlei tzion. This is the pasuk in Sefer Yechezkel, talking about the Milchama of Gog and Magog, that there will be so many mesim that it'll need to be marked. But over that those that pass by will cross through the land, and when they see the bone of a person, he should put a marker on it. That's the and that to indicate that this is where one of the soldiers. This is one of the soldiers of Gog has been buried. Says the Gemara. Okay, so that's another raya to the idea of marking graves. Etzem, a bone, you have to mark a bone. From here, you learn that you have to mark off where the bones are. Adam, and the next, Etzem Adam, what's Adam? Al ha-sidra v'ha-gulgalas. Yeah, that you have to mark off not just bones, but also the spine and the skull, that you also have to mark those off. Ubana, and he should build, Mikan shemitzayin al gabe even kvua. Yeah, you see that what we do is we mark. We are supposed to be mitzayin the even kvua. We have to indicate where the stone is that was put on top of the grave, even though there's no bone directly there. But this is the gravestone. You have to mark that as well. Says the Gemara, im omer es al gabe even telusha. If you say, we're explaining this now. If you say that it has to be on an Evan Telusha, on a detached stone, will that stone people are going to think that this stone, which is loose, that you are marking, that has the ability to go be metame somewhere else, meaning it's not a bone, it's not part of the body, it is just something that was on top of the grave. Why are we marking this on top of the grave? Says the Gemara, etzloi. Im omer es al gabe evans lusha. Not it's an you only have to mark a stone that is embedded, meaning that's stuck in Evan Kavua, but not an Evan Telusha, not a loose stone, because that's not going to be metame if it goes to another place, if it rolls to somewhere else. So sometimes you walk around the base of forest and you'll see that people put stones on top of graves. Those stones do not have any status of tumah, but the headstone that's there, the stones that they pour on top of the grave that are then embedded in, that does become tameh if it would be picked up and taken somewhere else. Says the Gemara, etzloi, next to it, lemakim tara, to a place that is tahar, tzion mikan, etzloi, lemakim tara, it has to be in a, that the way that you mark the grave is, you mark it etzloi next to it, means lemakim tara, that the marker is in a place that is tahar. Tzion, and when the pasuk says tzion mikan letzion, that's how you know that you have to make a tzion. I mean, that's the derivation of the pasuk, which means that halacha lemaisa, you are not supposed to mark a grave on the grave itself. It has to be b'makom tara. Says the Gemara, umatza even achas mitzuyenes. What happens? The Tana teaches us. What happens if you found only one stone? Meaning, you found a stone and it has lime marked onto it, painted onto it, telling you that this is where a grave is in this vicinity. Says the Mishnah, Afal pi she'ein mekaymin kain. Even though we should not, we shouldn't mark a grave in such a way. Hamal aleha tame. Somebody that stands on that marked stone is going to be tame. Why? Ani omer, because I'm going to say mitzuyon v'haya nasan tachta, that the guy came along and he marked off graves and he just made a marker where the grave is. Now you're not supposed to put a mark where the grave is, because if you mark only where the grave is, so then by the time the guy stands on the mark, he goes, and now he's tame already. It doesn't warn him that there's a grave coming up, so he's going to end up standing on it and he's going to become tameh. So what are you supposed to do here? So you're supposed to mark the graves a little bit of a distance away from them to tell people that there is a grave in this vicinity. How do you do that? The correct thing to do is that you should have multiple markers demarcating the contours of where this kever is, so that if you encounter one of them, you know that, I'm in the general vicinity of a grave, I should look around and see what the other marker is. But if you only found one marker, so then what you should assume is that the guy that was marking it didn't know what he was doing, and he just marked on top of the grave. So Mitzuyin v'haya nasan tachteh, then he only made one mark. Hayushtayim, but if there are two marks, hamal alem, somebody that stands on one of them is tahar, because now you know that this is marking off a space that is tameh between these two. U'bneihem tameh, and in between them is going to be tameh. But if it was plowed in between those two, nobody would plow in between two graves. So then you have to assume that they are individual ones, and the guy didn't know what he was doing, and he marked off two individual graves. Benehem tahar, but the plowed area between them is going to be tahar. Svivaseim tameh. Our girsa has svivaseim tameh, that around them, or what the Tiglin Chadin points out, maybe al gabem, that on top of them is going to be tameh, but around that area and on top of them is going to be tameh. Tani, the Brisa says as follows: Ein mitzayna al habasa. We don't make demarcations of basar, meaning even though basar, human flesh, is tameh, we don't mark human flesh. Why? Shemin is akal basar, because in a couple of weeks that flesh is going to decompose, and what's going to happen is people are going to then think that the tahar stuff that they had became tameh, and it didn't become tameh, and you're going to end up bringing things that are tahar to the base of You're going to end up unnecessarily burning and destroying things that are tahar forever, even though they're 100% tahar. People are going to think that they're tameh because they came in contact with a marker that marked something that's no longer there. So we're we're hedging our bets here. We're saying for the next couple of weeks, it might be a problem not to mark off this basar. But for all future generations, if you're going to mark this off, you're going to have a problem. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yusta bar Shunem ba kume Rabbi Mana. Rabbi Yusta bar Shunem came in front of Rabbi Mana. Loi nimtza veloi nimtza matame taris mafreya. He says, does it not turn out from this that you are going to end up being metame taharis le mafreya? You're going to end up being metame taharis because somebody's going to come by and they're going to have taharis, and then you're going to have to say, oh, there was actually baso there. He's not going to know that. So he says, Amarle, so he says to him, mutav she's kalkulu by l'shah. It's better that we deal with a temporary problem, va'al yiskalkulu by la'olam, and not end up with a permanent problem, which is going to be metame taharis in future generations, or for the rest of the year, or the rest of the decade, whatever it is. Okay, that is the end of the first Mishnah, which the Yerushalmi calls halacha. And now we are up to halacha beis. Says the Mishnah, halacha beis, mas nisin. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, but Rishena hayu okirin mashlichin lifneim. Once upon a time, they would be okir, they would pull out the kilayin, umashlichin lifneim, and they would throw it in front of the people that had planted these kilaim, and this was embarrassing. It was supposed to be embarrassing if you didn't go and take care of your own kilaim. So the basin would come and they would embarrass you about this. Misha Rabba over Avera, when over Avera came along, meaning when there were lots of people, they didn't care about the fact they were planting kilaim. They were very happy about this. They said, Shkoyach, you come and you weed my field for me. You get rid of the kilaim on my behalf. No problem. So then, instead of putting it in front of their houses, they would be mishlichin ledrachim, because then they wouldn't be able to use it. Now, you're allowed to use kilai karim. It's not asa bahana. Once you've uprooted it, you can use it. But now they made it unusable. And then his kirim shayim afkirin is kalasad. And then at a later stage, instead of even throwing out into the roads, because then they were happy that people were weeding their fields on their behalf, even though they couldn't use the stuff, they would be mafkir as kalasad. They would use the principle of hefker based in hefker, and they would destroy. I mean, they would say that the whole field doesn't belong to the owners any longer. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with the rest of this over Shabbos, because about to start Shachris. And we will continue from the Gemara on Shabbos and on Matzah Shabbos, hoping that everybody has had a beautiful day and is ready for a beautiful Shabbos. And we will see you then. Enjoy.